The next scary story I want to share with you is one I heard from a taxi driver, which happened to him when he was very young. He was driving me from the airport to the hotel when I arrived in Yaroslavl. After he told me the story, I asked him to take me to the place where it happened to him, but he refused, saying he would never go back there again and that he didn't want to subject me to the horror he experienced himself. I titled this story, On the Road of Fear. One day I was driving from Yaroslavl to a village. I needed to visit my sister. It was early morning, and mist hung over the fields like a vast phantom sea. The radio in the car was playing some pop music. I tried to drive calmly and attentively, mesmerized by the beauty of the dawn road, despite having spent my entire life in these places. My eyes were accustomed to this somewhat somber tenderness that seemed to permeate all the surrounding space. It wasn't the majestic twilight of the northern mountains, nor the chilling desolation of the Arctic. No, just a soft dusk that everyone who found themselves here breathed in along with the cool, moist air. A quiet, devoid of drama or hysteria, elven sadness, which seeps into you like a sponge with water, imperceptibly for yourself. I had only a little way left to go when suddenly, from the speakers, there was a hiss that grew louder, drowning out yet another pop melody. Disappointed, I twisted the tuner knob, but apparently I was already too far from the city, and the radio signal was weakening. I was about to turn off the radio altogether when it seemed to me that someone's voice, high-pitched, feminine, and melodious, was breaking through the interference. Perhaps it was the overlap of another wave, and there was something captivating in that voice. I wanted to make out what they were saying or singing. It must have been a literary program, broadcasting a fairy tale or a fantasy novel. With a clear, devoid of intonation voice, the actress repeated,
"The oak tree has a branch sticking out. It grew as if specially for the gallows. The rope was clothesline. There was no other. It's thin, but it'll hold. It'll do. There's a crimson mark on the neck. The face is swollen. The jaw shifted sideways. They used to call her beautiful, but now death has leveled her with others. She hangs like a doll. The branch is convenient and low-growing. Foxes gnawed at her legs. They ate the flesh off her legs, and now the bones stick out from the skin scraps. The dress was white, the best there was, but her bony legs stick out from it. She hung for 3 springs. No one cried for her. No one looked for her. No one worried."
I shook my head. The actress read well. Her talent was evident even through the dense radio interference. Her voice seemed to be from another world. And the text was somehow sticky, like a puddle of syrup that you struggle in like a trapped fly. Melancholic, but impossible to stop listening to. It was like a funnel, involuntarily drawing you in.
The branch is convenient and low-growing. Foxes gnawed at her legs. They ate the flesh off her legs. And now the bones stick out from the skin scraps.
Apparently, something happened in the studio. The disc got stuck. The actress repeated the same words over and over again about the convenient low branch of the oak tree for the gallows and about the dead woman in a light dress who hung for 3 years on the branch without the attention of anyone who had left her.
Foxes gnawed at her legs. Foxes gnawed at her legs. Foxes gnawed at her legs.
Repeated the radio. "What the hell?" I exclaimed aloud, and I finally turned off the receiver. For some reason, my mood soured. Neither the beauty of the mist nor the anticipation of reaching the end of the road brought me joy anymore. I focused on driving, withdrew into myself, into my deliberately mundane problems. Suddenly, I had the impression that a deer emerged from the forest onto the road ahead. A bright spot was flickering in the mist. I had to slow down to avoid hitting it. However, as I approached, I saw a young woman who was slowly walking along the shoulder of the road. She seemed a bit lost and didn't even turn at the sound of the approaching car. She was walking alone so early in the morning. It seemed like her sense of self-preservation was atrophied. Who knows who could be on an empty road? And she didn't even turn her head. I drove closer, hit the brakes, rolled down the window. Only then did the woman slowly turn around. She appeared to be around 35 years old, with a narrow, petite face. Her light hair was braided into a disheveled bun, tousled by the wind and walking. Her eyes were light gray, almost transparent. She was dressed somewhat old-fashioned and completely unsuitably for the weather, in a long, light dress. Its hem was stained with dried mud. It was madness to wear such a dress and walk through the mud. "Are you okay?" I asked her. The damp, cold air rushed into the heated car through the open window. The woman didn't respond immediately. It must have taken her a whole minute to look at me calmly, emotionlessly, as if trying to focus her gaze. She looked like someone who had been sedated. I felt disappointed and regretted stopping. This woman could clearly bring trouble into my life. But how could I just drive past her? It was obvious she had been dumped by someone along the road. Perhaps she had been wandering for hours, not knowing where she was going. And now, instead of a peaceful morning, I would have to take her back to the regional center, explain things to the police. I got out of the car, circled around her, and opened the door for the stranger. "Please get in. Don't be afraid. I won't do anything to you. It's warm inside my car, and I even have a thermos with coffee." The woman settled into the front seat, but didn't turn her head towards me. All I could do was glance at her profile from the corner of my eye. We drove for a kilometer, then another, and she remained next to me, frozen like a doll. "Are you from around here?" I dared to speak to her. "Would you like me to pour you some coffee?"
What?
She finally spoke.
No, I don't need it. I don't like coffee. I don't like anything.
"Where should I take you? Are we going the right way? Or is it better to turn back to the city?"
No, it's all right.
She nodded.
It's not far from here.
Her voice seemed vaguely familiar to me. There are voices you just can't forget. I took a closer look. No, I would remember such a face. It must have been my imagination. "What happened to you? Why are you alone on the road?"
I'm always alone.
The woman replied colorlessly.
For a long time. Always completely alone.
Quite strange, I thought. Mentally unstable. I hope she lives nearby. It would be better to hand her over to her family so they can figure out what happened. I shivered for some reason, as if from the cold, and had to turn up the heat in the car heater. The woman was very attractive. On the surface, it might have seemed nice to spend part of the journey in the company of a beautiful stranger, but the atmosphere around her seemed to be permeated with a heavy sadness. People like her are often described as having strong energy. I had a boss like that once. Just her presence made me uneasy and daydream about escaping. And once she left the room, I always wanted to air it out, let in some fresh air, even though she smelled of soap and expensive floral perfumes.
Here.
The woman suddenly said, and the sound of her voice echoed so deeply in the silence that I instinctively hit the brakes. Here? I exclaimed, feeling confused. But there's nothing here. I know these places. Hey, are you sure everything's okay with you? Let's go back to the city. You need to see a doctor.
I don't need anything,
she replied coldly. Suddenly, the woman turned her whole body towards me, and her face contorted into a grimace of suffering. She resembled a dark icon, the work of a talented icon painter, a beautiful, mournful face, yet with anger, rage, and cold cosmic emptiness in her eyes.
I don't need anything,
she repeated.
I feel bad. No one will understand. And before, everyone called me beautiful. I used to be the most beautiful.
You still look fine, I politely remarked. So where are we going, miss? There are only fields and forests around here, no villages.
Here, in the forest, there's an oak tree growing. The branch, it sticks out, as if it was deliberately grown for a gallows.
I felt like I was hit by an icy wave. My sweat turned feverish. Suddenly, I understood where I knew this voice from. It was from the glitchy radio broadcast I had been trying to listen to. The woman was repeating the strange and unpleasant text word for word.
The rope was clothesline, there was no other. It's thin, but it'll hold, it'll do. There's a crimson mark on the neck. The face is swollen. The jaw shifted sideways. They used to call her beautiful, but now death has leveled her with others. She hangs like a doll. The branch is convenient and low-growing. The fox's legs have been gnawed. They ate the flesh off her legs, and now the bones stick out from the skin scraps. The dress was white, the best there was, but her bony legs stick out from it. She hung for 3 springs. No one cried for her. No one looked for her. No one worried.
What nonsense are you talking? I tried to speak maliciously and confidently, hoping to bolster my inner strength from the sound of my own voice.
I took a rope with me into the forest. I thought someone would stop me. But no, they didn't catch up. They didn't find. They hung like that for 3 years. Nobody paid attention. There was such beauty. And now, look, just look.
She lifted her skirt like a tipsy reveler, but instead of legs, I saw bones. Bony legs with scraps of skin hanging on the knees, and above, only a white skeleton.
The foxes gnawed on my legs. See? The foxes gnawed on my legs. Look.
Get out of the car. Get out of here. The woman seemed as if she hadn't heard, continuing to mutter monotonously.
The mark on the neck is so ugly, and no one took notice. 3 years.
I leaped out of the car, swung open her door, and roughly pulled her out by the elbow, causing her to tumble to the ground. Strangely, I expected her to resist. As often happened in horror movies I sometimes enjoyed watching with a beer in the evening, commenting on the screen's events in a comedic tone. But the woman remained lying on the ground, muttering frightening words to herself, without attempting to grab hold of my trousers. I returned to the driver's seat, pressed hard on the gas pedal, and only when her contorted figure disappeared into the distance did I finally catch my breath. Damn it, some kind of nonsense. Whether I slept too little or I don't even know what, I said aloud. In an attempt to distract myself, I decided to turn on the radio again, hoping to catch some waves with frivolous pop songs. But instead, all I heard was interference on every frequency. Finally, I managed to tune into some sounds and nearly veered into the ditch when I realized that the same dreary monotone voice was speaking.
The rope was makeshift. There was no other. A bruised mark on the neck, the face swelled, the jaw skewed. I will find you. My legs gnawed by foxes. You threw me out of the car, but I will find you. I remember your scent. By scent, like a dog, I can find whoever you want. Flesh devoured, legs and tatters of skin, she hangs on bones. I will find you.
Shaken but alive, I reached the village I needed to visit. It was already light. The locals had awakened and begun their daily routines. I certainly told my sister everything when she inquired about why I looked pale and nervous. Strangely, she wasn't surprised at all. She confirmed that there is such an anomaly here, and many people complain and try to avoid walking along the local roads closer to nightfall. A suicidal girl allegedly lived here in the same village. She fell in love unrequitedly, and when she realized that there was no hope, she went into the forest and hung herself on a branch. They looked for her, but found her only 3 years later, as if the forest itself was hiding her dead from the eyes of strangers. And now she wanders the surrounding areas, keeping watch over lone travelers, showing her gnawed legs and promising to find anyone who angers her. And then it continues to haunt you in your dreams for a long time. There's no escaping it. You can only get used to it. Over time, it will pass. The same recurring dream, like a stuck endless transmission, will tell about her unhappy fate. And yet she won't answer any questions. She'll just keep insisting on the same things about the oak tree, the rope, the foxes, and her lost beauty of the past.